This is an abandoned psychiatric hospital. And if you dare enter after dark, these are the ghosts you might find. There are few places more terrifying than a psychiatric hospital, especially when it's abandoned. The idea of spending the night in one of these places alone is enough to make anyone's blood run cold. But what if you had to do it while being stalked by ghosts? These abandoned buildings are home to some restless spirits that won't let visitors leave without a fight. Here are just a few of the many frightening things that have been caught on camera inside these abandoned hospitals. Viewer discretion is advised for this video, as some of this video may be offensive or disturbing. We, the makers of this video, in no way support or condone any of the actions of the subjects featured. We do not receive funding from any external sources, and any profit we do make goes back into making more videos. With that said, let's begin. First, we have to look at this wheelchair. This was found in an abandoned asylum. It was literally left in the middle of the hallway. If you watched our other videos, you'll know that finding wheelchairs in these kinds of places isn't unusual. It's also pretty creepy. But what makes this wheelchair so terrifying is what happened next. As you can see, the person filming decided to take a ride in the wheelchair. Big mistake. The door behind them suddenly slammed shut and the wheelchair started moving backwards. That's right. A wheelchair was moving all by itself. They tried to move it themselves, but it was stuck. Then they heard a voice that seemed to come from nowhere. It said, "Get out." It didn't sound like any human voice, but instead, like a monster. Then the entity seemed to let them go. The door opened, and the ghost seemed to vanish. Next, we have to look at this nurse. This comes from another abandoned psychiatric hospital. This time, though, there's no scary moving objects, just a ghost. You can see her in the bottom left of your screen. She looks like she's walking down the hallway. But again, there's no rational explanation for this. How could there be a ghost here? It's not even the fact that there's a ghost, but what she seems to be doing. Is she looking for someone? Is she trying to warn them? Maybe she was a nurse who died while working the night shift? Whatever the reason, she looks very sad and very lost. Now we have to look at this shadow figure. In this video, a man was exploring an abandoned asylum with his friends. He used a night vision camera, and that's when he saw this. At first, it looks like a man standing over him, but then it rises up and takes on a more humanoid shape. It looks like a dark shadow figure. It looked as if it was watching the group the entire time, but where did it go? When he shone the light right where the shadow figure was standing, it was gone. There was no one there at all, and nobody in his group had cast a shadow like that. So what was it? Moving along, we have to look at this boy. Two men were exploring an abandoned psychiatric hospital. They walked into one of the rooms, and that's when they saw this. At first, it looks like a little boy sitting on the bed, but if you look closer, you'll see something strange. He has no legs. It's not clear what happened to the boy or why he's here, but some believe he may have been experimented on by the doctors who worked here. Either that or the hospital has a tragic history of dealing with missing children. Whatever the case, it's safe to say that whoever this little boy is, he's definitely dead. Moving along, we have to look at this room. These people were exploring an abandoned psychiatric hospital. It was in very poor condition, just like most psychiatric hospitals. But that's when they heard something. It sounded like a little girl crying. At first they thought it was just their imagination, but then the sound got louder. They walked down the hall, and that's when they saw this. It looked like someone had drawn a face on the wall. But it wasn't drawn by a human hand. The room was empty and no one was around. But how did the face get there? Was it drawn by one of the patients? Or maybe the crying girl they heard drew it herself. Now we have to look at this doll. Many people think dolls are creepy, and that's why it's always a bad idea to bring them into a haunted location. Some people were exploring an abandoned psychiatric hospital. One of them brought a doll with them, a big mistake. They put the doll down and started filming. That's when the doll started moving on its own. The doll turned around and its head started spinning. It looks like it's possessed by some kind of evil spirit. They tried to pick the doll back up, but it kept moving away from them. They even heard whispers coming from it. It sounded like the doll was trying to tell them to leave. What did they do? Of course, they ran away as fast as possible. But it's safe to say they won't be bringing a doll anywhere near an abandoned psychiatric hospital ever again. Next, we have to look at this hospital bed. These people were exploring an abandoned psychiatric hospital. They walked into one of the rooms, and that's when they saw this. The bed was moving on its own. It looks like the blanket was alive and had a mind of its own. They were too scared to approach the bed, so they started running. They ran down the hallway, and the bed suddenly stopped. But what was really scary was what they heard. A woman's voice echoed throughout the hallway. It said, "Help me!" But where was she? The room was empty. Where was the woman, and why is the bed haunted? Moving along, we have to look at this little girl. These people were exploring an abandoned psychiatric hospital. They thought it would be fun to use a spirit box. This is a device used to communicate with ghosts. It rapidly scans through radio frequencies, which allows ghosts to potentially send messages. And that's exactly what happened. The ghost of a little girl was speaking to them. She sounded sad and desperate. She was asking for help and saying that she wanted to play. But why is she trapped here? Was she a patient? Did she die here? Unfortunately, we don't know. But whatever the case, it's safe to say that this little girl's spirit is still lingering around. Now we have to look at this TV. These explorers were checking out an abandoned psychiatric hospital. They walked into one of the rooms, and that's when they saw this. The TV turned itself on and showed a static image. But then something very strange happened. A face suddenly appeared on the screen. It looked like a man with no eyes. It's not clear how long he was there for, but it was long enough to freak these guys out. They ran out of the room and didn't look back. But whatever this ghostly creature is, it's safe to say that it doesn't want to be disturbed. Finally, we have to look at this creepy nurse. This comes from another abandoned psychiatric hospital. Once again, there's no scary moving objects or sounds. Instead, it's the ghost of a nurse. She looks very sad and lonely. She seems to be wandering the halls with no purpose. But why is she a ghost? Maybe she was murdered by one of the patients. Maybe she simply died on the job. Whatever the case, it's safe to say that she doesn't mean any harm. She's probably just lost and searching for answers. But now it's time for you to make your voice heard. Comment below which was the scariest thing caught on camera in an abandoned psychiatric hospital. If you want some more scary videos, check out the playlist in the description. If you want to see more from us, stay tuned. It's been me. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. And if you haven't already, then what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel.